Present. Present.
Present.
Present.
Thank you, Cindy. At this time, I'd like to just alert the public that Ms. Gaffney, sitting at my left, is a new trustee. She was sworn in last week and would like to welcome to the board and to serve in the community. At this time, may I have a motion that the Board of Education accepts the agenda for June 6, 2023 special session / public work session as presented?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
At this time, may I have a motion to amend the agenda and remove item F?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
We also have Ms. Dickey here, who is part of SEPTA, and she has an award she'd like to present one of our teachers.
The Executive Board of Garden City SEPTA would like to congratulate Mr. Stephen Bellello on winning this year's Nancy Meyer Maxwell Award. This award was created in memory of the former head of Pupil Personnel Services, Miss Nancy Meyer Maxwell, and is bestowed in her honor to an individual who goes above his or her job responsibilities to help the special education students in our district. Mr. Bellello, in your role as a Garden City High School business education teacher, you embody the spirit of this award. You consistently go above and beyond your role by creating a welcoming environment for the special education students that are lucky enough to take your elective courses. Many faculty members have shared their experiences in spending prep times with you in order to differentiate lessons to help a special education student access and get the most out of your classes. They have expressed how often you go out of your way to work with your fellow special education teachers and speech pathologists to create a loving, supportive, and flexible environment for all learners. Your drive and creativity have provided more ways for our students to be integrated and included within their school building and among their peers. Thank you for being such a strong advocate for our students with disabilities.
Just want to say one thing. I didn't expect to say anything at all. Just thank you so much. I think inclusion is so important. Honestly, when I received the letter, I thought it was spam because I just didn't expect it. It's just something that I love to do. I think inclusion is so important. I think having Christian and Joe in my class this year and many others in the past has not only helped them out, but helped my other students out in the general ed population. And I told my mom, and I'll tell everyone here, that this award means more to me than tenure. So thank you.
All right, with this work session this evening, we have two items that we wanted to share with our community and our Board of Education. One is on learning spaces. This is something that we have been working on for the last several years, and particularly these last 2 years. And what we're talking about is flexible learning spaces for our students. And this evening, you'll hear from our students exactly how it impacts their learning and their experiences. And just to give a little bit of, in terms of how much work we have done thus far, some of the spaces that we have revamped in our buildings, and we have created new spaces. One is the high school library, the research center here at the high school. We have redone the Project Lead the Way room. Mr. Bilella, who's here this evening, he'll be talking about his classroom, how we've sort of transformed that this year. The middle school library, the learning commons at the middle school, the innovation labs at both elementary schools. And Mr. Syed is also here from Stratford. He'll be talking about his room. And then for next year, we also have the Stratford courtyard, the primary courtyards, and at the high school in front of our cafeteria, creating that space for our students. So I think you'll get a sense for how this aligns with our vision for teaching and learning in our district, and how much the students are benefiting from these flexible settings. Remember, schools are probably the only institution or organization that looks about the same as it did many, many years ago. And we really want to bring it current to what the students are developing new skills within that area. And we want to continue to promote that in our schools. So with that, we have a whole team here led by Ms. McGuire, who is our Director of Technology and Innovation. And I'm going to turn it over to her.
Thank you, Dr. Sinha. I'd like to invite up our guests for tonight. To the board, I hope you don't mind. We're going to do things a little bit differently tonight. No big presentation. We thought it would be really beneficial to hear directly from the students. So we invited some of our learners who are doing their living and learning in the classroom. And so we invite you to turn around. This is me living out my talk show host dreams. So we've set up some flexible spaces on the stage. So first off, I'd like to thank all of our faculty members here, Mrs. Lavelle, Mr. Bilello, Mr. Davola, Mr. Syed, and Mrs. Wenger for coming tonight. And most importantly, I'd love to thank our Stratford students, Liam, Christian, and Ava. I'd love to thank our middle school students, Ryan and Theodora. Thank you for coming tonight. And our high school student, Patrick. Thank you. We really felt it was important. We could speak about it all we want, but we really felt that you guys are living and learning in these spaces. And so just to speak a little bit about Mr. Syed, I'd like, if you don't mind talking a little bit about what your space looks like, because yours is a little bit different. We have Mrs. Wenger here, who has the newly redesigned middle school library, and Mr. Bilello has a beautiful new classroom here at the high school. So, Mr. Syed, do you want to talk a little bit about your space before we begin, and then I'll start asking the students some questions?
I'm Mr. Syed, a fifth grade teacher at Stratford. These are my awesome students here. We completely redesigned our room with the help of Dr. Sinha and Ed, the whole team. We started the process back in October. We met with Jolene and her designer Franco from Norva Novell, and we had these sessions. We were thinking about what we wanted our room to look like. We wanted a lot of flexible seating. We are an ICT classroom. We wanted a lot of stand-up seating. We wanted some different couches and things that we could use. The process was really created based on what the students wanted. We actually had the students meet in small groups, and we posed the question, if you could design the room however you want, how would you design it? And the kids actually came up with their own designs. We want this, we want this, we want this. Then we met with the designer Franco on Zoom, And exactly what the kids wanted, he kind of came up with the same ideas, and the kids really from their own, thoughts and from what they need out of a space for learning came up with a whole plan. And we met on Zoom, they designed it, and then magically, they walked in one day and the room was completely designed how they wanted it. And it was just right, kids? It was an experience that you'll never forget. They did not know this was really going to happen, and it did. And I have to say, one of our students, Charlie Seals, the way that he designed the classroom was exactly the way that these designers who have a lot of experience in engineering backgrounds designed it. And that just goes to show you that our space at Stratford, and I welcome the Board of Education. Anytime you want room 131 at Stratford, we have an open door policy. Come on in and check it out, because the space is completely revitalized, rejuvenated. There's such a passion for learning in the kids. I'll just say, as I'm teaching throughout the day, I have students walk by and I just hear their comments. I wish my classroom was like that. We used to have a few kids who maybe came a few minutes late to school. They're now the first kids on time. They're excited to come to school and excited to be in the space. And I don't know if the board has seen pictures of the classroom, but it's amazing. 131 at Stratford, open door. Just come on in. It's amazing.
Thanks, Mr. Side. So students, I was wondering if we could ask you a few questions. And feel free to jump in. Patrick, I know you're all the way down over there, but whoever feels like speaking, grab the microphone. So first of all, we want to ask you a little bit about what is your experience working in these flexible spaces? Could you talk a little bit about that? Anybody?
From my experience with the flexible learning space, it really helped me focus while being comfortable, because I was comfortable and I wanted to stay in that space. So So it just helped me focus. It also helps because it can fit more students than it is needed to. So if other people want to explore the classroom, they can, because there's extra seats.
And is there extra room to move around a little bit? Does it feel like that? That's great.
Yeah, and that also helps with group work, because there's multiple different areas where you can sit.
That's awesome. Thank you. Would anyone else like to share a little bit about their experience?
I think with my experience, it definitely had a positive impact on my learning. I think with the seats, I could stand up and it had me less stressed, and it had me thinking more about my learning than the seating. So yeah, I think it just helped overall.
You think the comfort of the seats helped you a little bit?
Yeah.
Great. Whoops.
My experience, for me, it helps me feel more engaged with my work, because there's so many different ways to sit in your seat or stand. You can use so many ways to have group work and stuff. And it's really cool how everyone can have their own little seat. And the flexible seating is really cool.
How many times a day do we change? How many times a day do we manipulate or change the layout of the room or the furniture?
We change a lot, because almost for every period we change our seats most of the time. So
That's great. Thank you. Any of our middle school students want to weigh in? You don't have to, no pressure.
Being more comfortable lets you learn better, because you're more you can focus more on what you're learning instead of the seats. So
It just makes you feel really comfortable with your learning space, since you can choose where you want to learn. And if it doesn't work out, you could always change. And that seat might work for you too, since they're all flexible and you can always change where you sit.
That's great. Thank you so much. Patrick, do you want to speak? Do you want to?
Sure.
Thank you.
I absolutely believe that the new room creates a cohesive environment in the classroom and fosters cooperation between students. It inspires group work, and through that adds a deeper understanding and deeper level of learning. As a person who's been taught in both the old classroom and the new, I can speak to the effectiveness of the new classroom in regards to how well you can retain information.
That's great. Thank you. So let's put the teachers on the hot seat for a minute. Let's ask them a few questions. Teachers, how has your experience been? What do you notice do you notice changes with student learning, with engagement or anything like that that you can speak to?
Hi. I can say that engagement, and I'm like looking at all of my students, and a lot of these are from the new library. So, engagement has been really, it's really gone through the roof, from everything as simple as the number of students who I have attending Makerspace now because they want to attend Makerspace in the new Makerspace, to students who want to take tests in the library. So I have teachers that come to me all the time and ask, like, certain classes, they really struggle with test taking. They really want to come to the library and take the test. So if I can accommodate them, of course. So it's that students genuinely want to be in the room, and how they're using it changes depending on the class they're in or what we're working on that day, or whether they're choosing to be there for like Makerspace, or if they're actually just choosing to be there because they want to take a test. It's really, they're excited about being there, and they'll really find many excuses to come into the space. So engagement has really like skyrocketed.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It is definitely skyrocketed. And even just something as simple as the whiteboard. So those that took the field trip before to my classroom, there's so much whiteboard space now that I was like, oh, I wonder what the students are going to use this for. And within the first day, everyone's like, we have expo markers, we need expo markers. And we're recently doing a food truck project in the classroom, and it's collaborative and the students are all working together. And a lot of them were breaking out the expo markers and just sketching out their ideas and thinking that way. And to be honest, I love seeing them off the Chromebooks and doing other stuff. Besides that, the Chromebooks are great. But with this space, they're able to learn in different ways. And everyone said it really great down there. And even the students at the elementary school using words like engagement and less being more attentive. For 6 years, I think we had a conversation years ago about changing the space to something like this. And in the business department, one of our goals is to bridge the business classroom to the business world, because so many of the Garden City students go on to work in the business world. And we had a student observer the last 2 days, and I mentioned this story before. She worked for KPMG for 4.5 years. She's a CPA, she's a career changer, loves teaching, came in to observe yesterday, walks into the classroom, and her mind was blown away. She said, this looks like some of the spaces in the KPMG building, corporate office in the city. And that's the way we wanted to set it up in the business department. And that's the way it's going. And even in science or the library in different areas, you could adjust it to make it work for what's best for the students in your space.
One of the things that I find with the elementary students and I agree with everything that we've said, is that the learning becomes about the learning and not about the stuff. One of the original, kind of concerns that I think teachers have when they look at something like this is there's not enough storage space, there's not enough whatever. But what I've seen with my class is that the learning becomes about what we're learning and keeping thoughts and ideas in their head and expressing themselves. And they walk away with this knowledge and this collaboration and these ideas. And it's not about the stuff, it's about what they can take with them or their ideas. And so I've seen a lot of transference of learning and a lot of retention of learning. Kids are retaining more in their heads and in their minds, and they're expressing themselves more, which I think is optimal.
So students, Let me pivot back to you for a second. Is there anything in particular that stands out that you really enjoy the most about the spaces that you work in?
I really like the new presenting room in the library because I just feel like I really would want to present there because everybody's all together and they can all see clearly because usually just with regular desks, there's always somebody's head in the way or someone's in the way, but in here everybody can see clearly and there's a huge space for somebody to stand there and just present to the whole class and the whole like presenting like with the TVs, it's like so cool. It's
Love that.
fun.
Thanks.
I think there's a specific piece of furniture that has a positive impact on my learning. I like the stand-up desks because when in the normal desks, I would have to focus on like, I have to walk around to like get my legs moving. On the stand-ups, I can like choose if I want to sit. If I need to take a break, I can just stand up and move around a little bit.
That's great. Thank you.
Excuse me, I just have a question. How much access do our smaller classes, our special ed classes have in this room?
I can take that. The library is open, so mine is different because mine's the library as opposed to their classrooms. So my library is open 9 periods a day to teachers to come and book and use the space. So the new library has there's a lot of side rooms to it. So we have a steam room, a makerspace room, a recording studio, and a collaborative room. The collaborative room is used very often by team support or by small group instruction because it's the ideal setup for it. But other parts of the library, I'd say that at least once a day it is used by team support or for small group instruction.
I was really asking for like 12s or 8s, even if for if the students are in different schools in the district. This room seems like it's very tactile friendly, and this could be the type of area that students in the smaller classes would be able to excel in.
Yeah, I'll just add to that really quick. And that's a great point that you brought up. I've had them for the full year in a regular classroom setting and now this setting. And for instance, Joe just walked right in the classroom, sat right down on one of the shorter, that I wouldn't call it a cushion, I guess. What would you call those short? Yeah, it's a soft stool. Yeah, it's a soft stool. Joe sat right there. Kristen sat on another side. Another day they went to the booth, and there's just different places for students with special needs to sit, along with room for aides and behavioralists and whoever else is in the room because there's so much space now.
That's great. Thank you. Any opportunity that we can get those children really interacting in this room, I think is going to be wonderful.
If I could just address that. So as we, in each of our buildings, as we have these spaces, one of the areas that our principals have worked very hard on is to make sure that all kids have access. So for example, the innovation labs that are at the elementary schools, classrooms are being scheduled into that. So all students have opportunities, and same thing with the learning commons. That's another space at the middle school. So we are creating those opportunities. Mr. Side's classroom, that's an ICT classroom, and similar to what Mr. Bolello said. So yes, I agree with Mr. Neco, what you're saying about being in a tactile environment, the more exposure for all of our kids, particularly our special ed kids.
I teach at Stratford 5th grade ICT. So the students that are in ICT for 5th grade at Stratford have access to this. And the room and the learning space is really built for, integrated co-teaching and small group instruction without it appearing that way. So I could pull groups and I can work in I call them the Panera booths, but I could work in booths and I can work in stand-up sections with students, and it's not very visual to the rest of the class, and it doesn't impede on the learning. It adds and it grows the learning. So it's really a great environment for an ICT class.
Thank you.
Great. So my next question, I think I will transition back to the teachers for a moment, because earlier on, a lot of the students shared you answered so many of my questions already. So I'm going to stick with the teachers for a couple of minutes. Are there any specific features, teachers, or design considerations that you think are essential for creating this conducive environment for teaching and learning? What are some of the factors that you feel went into this space that help to foster that?
When we were creating the space, we thought about specific students that we had in the past and how they would benefit from a place like this. So when we were designing these spaces, we really looked at students, general education and particularly special education students, and how they would interact with this and how this would foster their learnings. So for our room at Stratford, we have quite a bit of stand-up, as Liam was mentioning. He loves the stand-up desks. We have quite a bit of stand-up space. The designer actually said, do you want less, stand-up space and more lower seating? And we said, no. Fifth graders love the stand-up space. We have these rockers. So if students are kind of fidgety or need to rock, they can do that. So the whole design process was really very student-centered. What would these students like? What would these students like? And if you walk around our classroom, you'll see different areas. And we've noticed that certain students tend to, gravitate towards certain areas when given the choice. So there's so much flexibility and diversity within the space that all students can access learning and elevate their learning.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, so a little bit different, I think, at the high school. I mean, when I was in elementary school, I wish I had a stand-up area, because like some of the students said before, sitting confined in a desk all day long is just, it gives me nightmares remembering how that was for years when I grew up and all of us grew up. But at the high school, small stand-up area, which students use, we turned it into like a printing station. Actually, it's kind of cool. But it's a lot of collaborative work in the high school. Project-based learning is huge in the business department. So we set it up with that in mind. There's a huge round table in the middle. Pat sits there with 7 other people usually, and they're in college accounting. So they're bouncing different things off each other. So instead of somebody having to turn all the way around, Pat can talk to RJ in front of him, or, Stacy next to him, or whoever's around him. They're just looking at each other, working together. There's 2 booths. So 4 students can sit together in the booths and work together. Then there's like a horseshoe thing going on in some taller areas, but the main focus at the high school for the business department at this time was collaborative learning and project-based stuff. And it's been a home run.
I'm just going to kind of piggyback off of that. So the library definitely has a lot of areas that are meant for collaboration, but I also think that when thinking about spaces, you think about like adaptability and versatility of those particular spaces. So we had a project that Ryan was actually a part of a few weeks ago, where we were doing, the students were recording stop motion videos. And it was very interesting to see once they were very excited to get started. And once they did, with how they spread out and how they changed the configuration of the furniture, how they moved things, how they took ownership of how they wanted the space and areas to look so that they could create projects that they wanted. So they were all over the room, whether they were like in the makerspace room, somewhere in recording studio, and how they were changing everything just to meet their needs for the project. So I think that is huge. And yes, everything is flexible, but how they take what's flexible and make it work for them as individual students so that they can find success in whatever they're doing is very important when making decisions as far as like layout goes and furniture and et cetera.
Great, thank you. I have a quick question for the students. What can you say is your most memorable experience or project, or something that was creative or problem solving that you did in one of these spaces, whether it's your classroom or something you visited and participated in the library or in a high school classroom?
I like to do science because you can pick your own groups and sit wherever you'd like. But also because for the groups you can like take an expo marker and like write down some things like on the whiteboard tables and like makes it like better to focus on what you're trying to do.
Great.
So my class does book clubs where we like read a book together. So I think it was cool how like we did a roundtable thing and we could all share our ideas and it gave us like a different perspective on the story after we heard like different people's opinions and it was easier to do with the furniture.
Great. Cool. Thank you. Anybody else want to share? You don't have to.
As far as my experience goes, the class that I currently take in the new classroom isn't really project based, but more test and like information based. And just the like collaborative work environment that's created where you can bounce ideas off of peers next to you and ask questions and get like reinforced in your learning, that I think benefits.
Thank you. Is there anything else that anybody up on the stage would like to share with us tonight?
I would like to say that I did not need to talk at all because these
Exactly.
students were so amazing
Exactly.
at explaining it, and they really like embody why we do this and why we create this space. It gives students opportunity for having the possibility for collaboration and adaptability, and that is what we see in the real world. I visit a lot of different spaces that are future forward. Like I visit Google space, Apple space, and they're all like this, and they're all giving that opportunity for collaboration and opportunity for flexibility as well. So if you need to bunker down and get work done, there's a spot for that. But when you want to go and work as a group, there is opportunity there. So thank you, students, for saying everything I needed to say and everyone else here needed to say. So,
Mr. Panu, you have a question?
I have a question for the students. You have a lot of great spaces to learn, present, collaborate. What, if anything, is it missing? Can you tell us one thing that you could think of that it's lacking?
Well, I kind of like wish that the classroom had maybe like mm, well, maybe the classroom could have some more like, this is a hard question.
You can come back to us. Just think about it. Anyone?
I think that it's very cool with all the collaboration for the group work and stuff, but I think it wouldn't hurt if you put a couple desks aside just in case you wanted to work something on your own that maybe like you wanted to keep private. Like everything is collaboration. I think we could add some solo stuff, but
That's a great idea.
That's a great suggestion.
Great idea.
I think a major aspect that might be missing is space, as the room used to be like a computer lab type of area before, and many of the softwares and programs that we use for some of these classes is mainly done on these desktops. But I think this issue is mostly solved by the fact that every student has their own Chromebook, and many of these programs can be run on these Chromebooks. But I think you have to sacrifice as Mr. B just asked me to say. He and I would like to see MacBooks given for the business department.
Oh, boy.
But Furthermore, I do think it's a worthwhile sacrifice to give up some of the space and some of that technology to bring in a more productive workspace.
And one last question, can you tell us a little bit about your experience in the green room, in the podcast room, in the VR, with the VR glasses? What are you learning? What are you doing there?
When I was there, we were just kind of like testing out the equipment and like making sure it like works. And it was cool to like be able to use it and know that like in the future, like people might be doing like projects in there.
Yeah, and to add on that, I was with you, Ryan, when we were testing it out. This space is going to be great for next year and lending itself to a production club and having student voice be brought out. So I don't know how to use some of this stuff. I just said, hey, Ryan, do you want to learn this with me? I don't know what I'm doing. I think I said that to you directly. I have no clue what I'm doing. Let's figure it out. And so that we can help other students in the future. So those spaces for production in the green screen space is perfect for that.
And some of that just recently opened at the middle school in the last couple of months. So we're learning.
Thank you.
Big plans. Any other questions? Anybody from the Board of Ed want to?
This is maybe a general question,
Sure.
a money question, not exciting for people on the stage, but how much, again, can you refresh us on how much we spent on this? Or maybe I should look at Mrs. DeCaprio.
One thing is the two classrooms that the two classrooms that we just did, that was actually donated from a company, and one of the a staff developer that we used earlier. Because remember, the space work, we have embarked on that. So there's learning for us as adults to use it in a way that's beneficial to our kids as best as possible. So those two classroom, it is unbelievable. I would really recommend for the board to, if you get a chance, to go see it. So that was donated, but the other classrooms, like the innovation lab, that was what yes. Both of those, the libraries, the especially the learning commons at the middle school, that was two rooms that we combined. And there's always in old buildings, so those are costly. So it's more than, I also want to make sure that we understand it's more than just the furniture. There's so much more in these spaces. The lighting matters in these spaces. The visibility matters in these spaces. A color matters. That's right. So it's more, we always tend to talk a lot more about the seating, but one of the things I think we had shared with the board with the innovation lab, the kids, and that's at the elementary school, one of the common themes that the students talked about was that they were calm in that space. They felt calmer and more available to innovate and be creative in those spaces. So that's really important, for us to kind of keep in mind. In our district, that's been a goal for us with these spaces that, and again, it's going to continue into next year. And there's been work done within the building. So some of the ones that we've highlighted, but there are other spaces in our district. And I think, I know Ms. Lavelle worked at our, primary schools, particularly because those are already beautiful spaces. How can we think differently about them? So I don't know if you can speak to that, Ms. Lavelle.
Yes, I think that it's important to note that the two classrooms, the Bigland size and the Bolellos, were amazing redesigns that were donated, but there are so many other additional teachers that were inspired by that and by the library spaces and what the library looks like here, that it's trickled kind of everywhere in the district. And although maybe the funds weren't there were ways to redesign classrooms to make them more innovative. And I know Dr. Viskovich specifically at Homestead made that her goal, the goal that Dr. Sinha is speaking of creating more innovative spaces was a goal at Homestead and something that the teachers there worked on all year long and worked to create either quiet corners for their students, calming spaces, standing desks, lower reading areas and spaces along those lines. But I think that overall, the setup of the room, that physical changed a lot of the teachers' practices. And that was the biggest noticeable change was that once the room physically changed, the teachers were able to teach differently. You saw more small group work, as the students were mentioning before. You saw more collaboration. And still in some of those spaces, we had traditional seating. You still had the option to sit in a hard chair. And a lot of these seats are, well, they're all from the library here that we kind of moved in here. But some of those chairs are more traditional. And sometimes students prefer that. And we give students that choice in this as well.
If I could just mention one more. So this year we had teams in each of our buildings to really study spaces. And you may wonder why Mr. Side or Mr. Bolello were the two teachers we chose. Or we were at these meetings and they showed such great excitement. So when we were speaking to our consultant we were using to facilitate some of our work, and we said, how can we get their spaces redone, because there was such enthusiasm. And I think it has trickled into other areas and other colleagues who are looking at how can we do things differently. You don't need fancy things. You can just ask the kids, how do you want your space set up? And there's magic that happens with what the students do within that space.
We in our classroom, kids, how many times do other teachers from around the district and other students come in and check out what we're doing and how we're using the space? How often? One of the things is we have we invite other teachers. The board is certainly welcome. And we also, one of my things that I do is when I see those kids outside of my room and they're peeking in, I'm like, come on in, bud. Come on and check it out. Walk around. And I want them to experience it. I want this to be a Stratford thing and not just a 131 thing. So we're always inviting kids in, other grade levels. Today we had the 5th grade rotating through our class, using the space for different lessons throughout the day. So it's really a community effort and a community, and it's going to, outreach to the whole Stratford community and Garden City community.
And can I just point out that Mr. Side hosted the Homestead teachers and took them all around to his room and his space and did a whole presentation for them to help them see that it's not, again, just about the seating, but how it changes your mindset. And then we saw a few other classrooms, Miss Mendonis, Miss Blystein, a couple of teachers that maybe don't have as fancy furniture, but they do have redesigned innovative spaces still.
All right, well, I want to say thank you so much to all of our participants tonight, namely Patrick, Theodora, Ryan, Ava, Christian, Liam. Thank you so much. I know it's late. We really appreciate your participation tonight. Thank you. Thank you. And to our teachers, our faculty, Mrs. Lavelle, Mr. Bolello, Mr. Davola, Mr. Side, and Mrs. Wenger, thank you for participating. So I'm going to ask you, you may leave unless you're very comfortable up there. Enjoy. We're going to start and move into talking about our website.
You're going to have to. All right. Yeah, I do, but I'm going to. All right. Thank you again, especially to our students and our teachers who are here. And I know Ms. McGuire is going to stay here because she's going to talk about the website in a minute. But, wanted our board to see the work that's continuing in our district around, again, the spaces. So the next item that we wanted to share with you is our new website that we just actually launched yesterday, but there has been quite a bit of work being done around with our website. We started this process, it was last school year. We've been looking at different platforms to see, what would best meet our needs. And as you recall, we had also done in the fall a survey with our community, our parents, our students, and our staff around, how can we better communicate. And I think this was one of the things that came from the board, actually. So we did this survey, and specific to the website, not we saw that I think we had about a little over 450 people that responded to that to the survey, but very few people actually went on our website. They went on it maybe occasionally, And out of that, let's see, because I have the numbers here, it was 61% occasionally visited our website and 8% noted that they never really visit the website. And it was cumbersome for folks. And one of the recommendations that was made, because remember, this survey was done through Syntax, our public relations company that we use. So what it stated in there was that, and I'm going to read it verbatim, what it states, and you'll see how this platform meets the needs here. So it says, while we certainly move ahead with, cleaning the district's website to make it more streamlined and more easy to navigate, the survey results were surprising in terms of the percentage who view it as a primary source of information for the district. What it really showed for us was that they really use the parent square and information from the teachers that were going home as their main form of information. Then it went on to say that this should be kept in mind as a district possibly explores new website platforms in the future, if they're perhaps a different platform that can integrate with Parent Square and social media. So we began to see, what would be our best platform for this. And I think you'll be really pleased. There's been a tremendous amount of back-end work done with this. Lauren McGuire has really led that work, and Nan has also assisted in making sure cleaning up. So we are not putting everything from our old website into our new website, but basically information that we value, that our community would value, that's on the website. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. McGuire, who will take us through this, through our new site.
Thank you. So you're going to have to turn around again. I apologize. It's hard in the auditorium. Basically, we chose Apogee, Thrillshare, in order to be able to bring all of those items together. We like the dynamic but clean, modern look to it. So right now you'll notice when it's the same web address, it's the same Garden City K-12 NYUS. Basically, this banner is going to be up here temporarily. It kind of gives you a little screen over what is the live website. And you can, just as we're still migrating some more content over and organizing some things, so things may move. We just want people to be aware that it's not completely finished. It's still a little bit of a work in progress. So this is our homepage. You can scroll down. It has a nice gallery going by. You may see some other video footage in the future. We have district events. You can scroll back and forth. It feeds from the district calendar. People can also go to the See All Events page, and it brings you to the full calendar. You'll see news articles. You'll see the live feed. And this is the piece where this integrates with Twitter and Instagram if necessary. But right now we're just focusing on Twitter. So what will happen moving forward is Dr. Sinha can post to Twitter, and so from here she can post to the live feed as well as Twitter at the same time, so the same message goes out. We are working with Parent Square right now in order to incorporate all of the posts that come through Parent Square so that those will also be embedded on a page here as well. So we just wanted the idea of the website. Our old website became a repository, God bless you, for stuff that just kept getting piled up and it winds up getting buried. So we really wanted this to be as clean as possible. You'll notice there's a menu. There's a drop down for schools. There's a tool for translation. There is a menu. And this is where really everything is located off of the district page. Every school has a similar layout. So you'll see that if you go on any building, there may be less on some pages. We might not have certain things about the district on certain pages. We might have more content that's important to that particular building. This is the live feed. It would take you directly to that. This was a big request over the last year. So I'm just going to click on that. That's our staff listing. I know a lot of parents were concerned because they wanted to be able to find the email addresses of teachers. Now, our department was concerned that email addresses being out there could be scanned and utilized for phishing scams and spam. So this was our good. If you go to send me a message, you click on send a message, it brings up a form. And so my email just does not need to be out there, but this routes to my email. And I've already received messages. So that's a nice way for people to reach out. It goes directly to our Outlook. Let me go back. If I want to go back to the menu, it's always right here. We have the news feed. We have it takes you right to the calendar. Documents would be anything that's been uploaded to this site. And this takes us to the athletic page for the high school. As you can see here, all of these are clickable links. These were all items that were on the other page, but they were also often very embedded, several layers deep. In here, anything that has the plus sign is, you can toggle in. I'm just having trouble with this keypad. Okay. These are all clickable links. Some of them are links to particular documents or forms. Some of them are links to more information on that website. Really, that's the extent of it. Up here, we have a quick link to the parents. For parents, we have always had a login center for parents where they could go, and it looks a little different. It's a little cleaner. It takes you right to School Tool, PTC Wizard, and pay schools for paying for the cafeteria lunches, Naviance. Anything that was previously on the old page has migrated here, but is a little cleaner and takes you right directly there. We've also included some information on account access for that. Again, that was information that was migrated over. And back to our menu. So really returning to the menu is the important way to kind of keep accessing things rather than back and forth and clicking deeply into the website, which tends to happen in a situation like we had, where we had something for many years. Schools, you can select from your school menu here. And you'll see, again, similar layout, gallery, events, and that helps people to learn the navigation a lot better. We have a menu on here. And then, as you'll see, we put this as a placeholder on a lot of the galleries at the moment, but they're really, one of the pieces that we were very excited about was our app. So let's move over to the app for a moment. We have a nice little video that Aptogee created for us to talk about that. Oops.
Introducing the brand new app for Garden City Public Schools. It's everything Garden City Public Schools in your pocket. This is the home screen. Tap the schools icon in the bottom right to select a specific school. Tap the 3 horizontal lines in the bottom left to see all the menu items. To turn on push notifications, tap Settings and select Push Notifications. The Events section shows a list of events throughout the school. You can use this button to add an event to your calendar, or tap here to share the event with friends and family. The feed is where you'll find updates from administration about what's going on throughout the school, whether that's celebrating a student's success or reminding you about an upcoming deadline. Search Garden City Public Schools, New York in the App Store or Play Store to explore the app for yourself. It's everything Garden City Public Schools in your pocket.
So that is the extent of it. So we have a nice, short and sweet presentation on the website. But what I want to mention is we are still continuing to build out. We are still continuing to organize things a little bit better. We're in a very good place with it. We are live. We wanted to do this now before the end of the school year so that people have access to it. People can test it out. People can try it out. We can get feedback from the community, our parents, our teachers, all of our stakeholders. So we will be sending out a survey in the coming days to ask for feedback. Once people start navigating the app, we want to hear from you. Once you start navigating the website, we want to know what works, what doesn't work. We can make changes, but we really wanted to do it while we still had the licensing with our other website available, so we could go back and forth and manipulate things that way.
Just a question, where can parents find the scope and sequence, curriculum maps, that type of stuff?
It should be under for parents, but I wouldn't know off the top of my head. I'd have to look.
Okay, so it is posted. We have.
Yes, everything should be there. Everything was migrated over. So sometimes it's just, I don't know off the top of my head where everything landed at this point. But that was part of what we pay them for too, is they brought all of the content over. They're still bringing more items over for us.
Just as someone who's navigated that for about 10 years, the old website looks great. Many of the complaints were the teachers' emails, which this works great.
Yep.
Understand the problem with posting emails. I would caution, it looks great, but part of the old problem with the old website is it was like Back to the Future. You'd click on something and it was, 6 years old or 4 years old or last year's curriculum. I caution we need to, just keep it updated. Calendar events, drop them off. Like people open it up, they just shut it down.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. And that was really why we wanted this to be easy to manage too. The other website wasn't even that easy to update, to be fair, on the back end of things. This one is much easier and much more navigable for the people that do need to do the updating. So we will definitely be working that. We really tried before we even started the migration to go through the older content. So right now there may be a few broken links here and there, and that's because we took things down that were outdated. So we just need to repopulate those. It's a very long process. It's been taking us a lot of time. We've talked about it since January, I think. So.
I know you said you're going to give notification. It'd be great if we can, I know a lot of people have come and asked if we can send out a notification to everybody in the district through, I don't know, ParentsWare or whatever is appropriate to make sure that they go and they download the app and
absolutely
they start fiddling with this. I mean, I know it's been a long time coming, so I appreciate the work that's been done, and let's get everybody using it so we can get that feedback.
Absolutely. And Dr. Sinha and I had talked about that. She'll be sending out a parent square message. The other thing AppDigi did was they made some nice marketing materials for us as well, as you can see. So that will go out. So people, one of the things we'll look at and gauge use is the downloads of the app itself. That'll help us understand that. But we definitely will drive people to the site, and we really value the feedback and information because I don't use the website like parents do. Everybody uses it a little differently. Teachers use it differently. So it's really important to hear it from everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lauren, I just downloaded the app.
Yes.
30 seconds. I sent you a test email. Let me know if it went through.
Excellent. Will do.
There's no more questions. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. At this time, we're going to work a little in reverse. We skipped over the citizens' questions and comments. If anybody in the room has a question or comment, feel free to come up to the microphone and, give your name and address. It was a safe night to skip questions and comments. Thank you. At this time, we're going to use our consent agenda. A consent agenda allows for one motion to approve multiple items as identified on the agenda provided. The president of the board will ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda and will ask the board members if they wish to have any discussions of any consent agenda items pulled out. Following the discussion, the board will vote on the consent agenda motion. At this time, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes personnel matters H1 through H4, business office matters I1 through I3.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Are there any noes? None noted. May I have a motion that the Board of Education adjourns the special session and open?
Well, we did the.
We already did the public, so sorry, you're right. At this time, sorry. The next regular session will take place on Tuesday, June 20th, 2023 at 8:15 PM at the Garden City High School. If there are no further questions at this time, may I have a motion that the Board of Education adjourns to executive session to discuss a confidential matter?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.